What is happening? Welcome to another episode of The Craft. My name is Nick Pollock, and every week I like to bring in a guest to talk about the state of pitching, understand new things, and pick their brains because we really haven't heard from them at all. So this week, it's Eno Saris of The Athletic. I know we've
Yeah, I haven't
had
heard from
Saris
me in a
on.
whole week.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
haven't had we've had Saris on, but now we have Saris.
Yeah.
Finally get it right. It's burned into my brain now. It's
Here
good to
I
see you.
am. Here I am. Big surprise. Thank you for having me on.
Oh, the pleasure is all mine. So so today we have actually like a good slew of pitchers that I think we want to talk about, but including, of course, Spencer Strider, who just made his debut. I did that on Playback, a good watch party for it. Super fun. If you haven't checked it out yet, just go to playback.tv/pitcherlist. Tons of fun. I'm going to steal Eno at some point and bring him on. At some point, we'll have a play podcast, and I think that would be like the funnest thing ever to showcase, like literally going through a start podcast. I think would be so cool. But the first thing I do want to talk about is from my colleague Nate Schwartz, who put out this really cool article earlier this week. Looked up a lot of interesting trends from around the league. And Nate wrote this article. I believe it's a baseball offense has changed. And it really just hammers in this interesting point of walks are up, but zone rate in 3-ball counts is up. And that doesn't make sense. How does that make sense? And the conclusion showcases that pitchers are changing their approach in 3-ball counts. Instead of being afraid of the walk, they're more afraid of the home run, the mistake pitch where guys are sitting on a fastball and they're going to hit that out of the yard. So what's happening is that these non-fastballs are being thrown, let's say that cutter, and that pitch is a strike, but it's in foul territory often as opposed to being in play, which means it extends the at bat. And that means there are multiple pitches that are thrown in 3-ball counts that then leads to that walk, which is interesting. So it's less efficient and more willing to allow a base runner while trying to prevent home runs, which obviously are the biggest swing in a game. And just from a theoretical standpoint there, would you say that is the right choice that pitchers should be making moving forward this year?
Yeah, I think the home run is the worst thing that can happen. So, and I think that the green light on 3-0 counts is increasingly there for hitters.
Yes, absolutely.
And so if the green light is there and you have such poor count leverage that you're not even sure you can get it back to a strikeout, you kind of want weak contact. You kind of start thinking about other ways to get out of that, out of the predicament you're in. So weak contact or a foul ball that gets you a strike seems to be a great decision. There are some weird things going on in the numbers, and I'm glad that this piece was kind of poking at it. Strikeout rate, we've been really fascinated with, and we've really been looking at hard. It has actually maybe stabilized.
Yeah, right.
It used to go up every year, and then the last 3 years, it's pretty much just been 22.5, 22.6, 22.7. Like it's all right there.
You did that.
What's that?
Because you put out the sticky stuff article.
Yeah, that was part of it. They also did like a lot of the rule changes. I think some of the pace stuff, a lot of it was related to wanting to keep strikeouts down. But what you have seen is that since 2015, there's been a fairly steady march upwards in walk rate. I don't know if that's necessarily true. You have a 7.7% early on, and then you have a bunch of 8.2s to 8.5s. Right. And so in 2020, we had a spike of 9.2%. In 2025, we have another spike, 9.1%. It's hard to say that what exactly will happen there. Because if you look across the whole history of baseball, like walk rate's almost always 8 to 9%. So one of the weirdest things. And so I think at some level, maybe more cutters in 3-strike in 3-ball counts will lead to more takes
Sure.
in 3-0, and
Yeah.
that'll lead to more walks. And if that leads to too many walks, if this gets up to 9.5% or something,
Yeah.
then the law of just numbers says that this kind of will come back to earth. But this increase in walk rate is also fascinating. I think he must be right that it is situational, because while there has been an increase in walk rate, there haven't necessarily been associated increases in things that you might allude to. Like, swing rate is up across the
Oh,
league
interesting.
since
Yeah.
2015. We've kind of steadily progressed from 46s to 47. So swing rate is up, and swing rate is down early in the season. So I would assume that the swing rate on this season is only going to go up. So that's a weird
Fascinating. Yeah.
thing to have with
So
walks. And then zone rate is, like, as Schwartz pointed out, zone rate is fairly steady. So how do you get more walks with more swings and the same amount of pitches in the zone?
Right. It's because more foul balls happen, and that's really what's going on.
Probably then you could look at pitches per plate appearance and just see that
Oh
pitches
man,
per plate appearances
that's a whole fun rabbit hole of I came up with out percentage, and then Taylor Tartar also came up with that percentage at the same time, and I was like, oh, we did the data on this. We just didn't really want to move forward on it in certain ways, but if you want to take this on, great. And then he put out this out percentage article last year, and I'm very obsessed with efficiency. Right, I'm like, this is, I think, one of the non-model ways of, like, there's two types of development always for me. It's like just taking the raw actual event, and then, like, it's algebra versus calculus to me. So, like, you have your CSW, that's an algebra one. Okay, whatever. It's not modeling the pitches, just saying swing strikes, call strikes, total strikes, algebra, easy. And then you have, like, well, stuff plus and PLV say this and all that stuff. I'm like, okay, well, that's your calculus. So I try to move both as much as I can. I always get obsessed if I try to find, like, a new algebra thing, because those are just easier for everyone to see. There's no black box, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And waste pitches, I think, are that area to really focus on. Yeah, how that's efficiency to me, is when you throw them, what happens after, and also can really highlight things like today. The perfect example. We're going to talk about these guys, I think, a little bit more later. This might be a good segue, but I don't want to stop talking about this. But Chris Bassitt, we've talked about him a lot, of like, hey, he kind of beats stuff plus. He has all these the kitchen sink stuff. Once you add like 5 or get up to 5 pitches or so, it changes that, right? But what you see inside of a game, you watch pitch by pitch, is how Bassitt makes adjustments between pitches to find his curveball when he throws a bad one. He actually had this great at bat against Austin Riley, where he threw this really bad 2-strike curveball to him. And Austin Riley, he said, he's going, great, I can eliminate that one. But then what's the next pitch? He throws a curveball that's actually pretty hittable in the middle. Riley swings and misses, right? He made the adjustment on the fly, and because of that, was able to take advantage of the inefficient waste pitch. But then on the other side, Spencer Strider threw a terrible slider down and away. And what's he doing the next one? She throws another terrible slider down and away in the same spot. And it's just, that is what separates a veteran from the from the younger pitchers, the ones coming back from Tommy John, are not quite in that state, right? And I feel like we have it. It's right there if we just look at it the right way, the right lens. I think that we'll find some insight into defining these veterans, and who are able to manipulate games more so than the stuff in Location Plus might tell us. Also, the pitchers who we can trust to get through 6 innings more often than not. So there's something to that there, and absolutely when it comes to this with zone rates and with walks as well, is like, okay, you get to 3-ball counts and they're fouling these off. Like, who are the ones who are able to not just get stuck in that 11 pitch at bat?
Yeah.
And what is it about that that's keeping them there?
We've got a whole quarter of a pitch per plate appearances more in today's game than we did in 2001.
That's so wild.
And that doesn't seem like a lot, but it's a lot when you start iterating it in terms of how many pitches are thrown over the course of the season. And,
oh yeah,
I think, with the multiple fastballs thing, you have more pitchers that are able to throw a different kind of fastball than the 4-seam fastball in a 3-0 count. So you have more pitchers able to do that. and the hitter is comfortable extending at bat as long as possible, as we can see from league-wide trends. I have a piece coming out tomorrow at The Athletic about how hitting development may be catching up with pitching development to some extent. And my evidence for this is, you can see something like how hitters do against sweepers. The sweepers were big one year, and every year the hitters have done better against them, since they've come out. And so if the hitters are finding ways to foul and battle off those good stuff pitches, then I could see this being leading to that. I do not know what the tipping point is.
Right.
I don't know. There always is, though. There always just is a team or a pitcher that decides, okay, well, this is too much walks. I'm going to put the forcing back in there.
Yeah, right.
But with Bassitt, one thing that also comes to mind for Bassitt is this relationship, and I think this actually has something to do with what we're talking about here too, is relationship between the size of your arsenal and the dominance of your out pitch.
Sure. Yep. Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you could theoretically, if you're 3-0 and you're Spencer Strider at his best, you can throw that slider in there.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Now you're setting, okay, either it's weak contact or a swing and a miss or a called strike,
Yep.
That's the power of a dominant pitch in the zone. I was making the comparison to Tomoyuki Sagano and Seth Lugo the other day, where I said, these are guys with tons of pitches. The difference between Tomoyuki Sagano and Seth Lugo is Seth Lugo has an out pitch.
Yeah, that curveball.
The curveball, right? The curveball is his thing. I don't know that Sugano has a single out pitch. Now I'm looking at Chris Bassitt. Stuff Plus says his sinker is his out pitch.
Oh yeah, what's interesting? Yeah, actually, so watching him today, it was a lot. I would say the curve became more of the one today. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. Correct me if I'm wrong. He told you when you were like, "Yo, curveball's amazing, Bassitt, throw that more." And he's like, "I need to set it up. I need to." It's all about contextual. But no, today the curveball really was the pitch for him.
And it used to actually still be the best pitch by Stuff Plus, but this year it's Stuff Plus doesn't love it so much. So maybe he's still searching for that curveball a little bit.
Today
you said it was better today?
Oh, it was fantastic. He actually didn't have it early, or like the first 2 or 3 times, and then he found it, and it really steered him through. I mean, he had 10 strikeouts today against Atlanta. Chris Bassitt in 5 frames, 90 pitches. It was the Bassitt game and not the Spencer Strider debut game.
I will just continue to be wrong about Chris Bassitt the rest of my life.
Yep, that's how I feel about many pitchers. Bowden Francis.
Speaking of the Spencer Strider thing today, in the numbers, the changeup looked good. Did it look good to the eye? I mean, only three of them, but
one that worked. There was one that he threw that to a lefty up and away. I think it was Rodin. That got an out and a fly ball out, and that was cool. But as far as utilizing as like a pitch that he can pull out and do, that was like that one.
Didn't look good,
really.
Because I say in the numbers it says he killed 300 RPM of spin, and it got more movement than usual.
That's great, but it still didn't look that good. Still not. Yeah, Spencer Strider, like good. You have that stuff pitch, but it's not that pitch that you can actually trust against lefties yet. And just to give the quick take on Strider, it was a very strange one because in the 3rd inning, we saw a decline of velocity happening with Strider. It was a rough inning with the Jays. And I actually want you to do something live. And I love when you do this. Go to the Baseball Savant page for Spencer Strider. Okay. And you go to Illustrator, you can select pitch velocity of a single start, right? You go by game feed and everything, and you have Illustrator pitch velocity, you see the trends. Tell me the moment in his pitch velocity when Vlad Guerrero tried to steal second with 1 out in the 3rd, pitch velocity is going down, and he gets thrown out of second. There's a review, so we get like 3 minutes of a break. Can you see that in the pitch velocity where Strider got the rest that he needed and actually got back on track? Because it is so apparent. And even as it was happening, I'm like, Strider's on, he's on the plank right now. He's trying to get his stamina back. His he's reeling his man on first. It's all going wrong. And then Vlad tries to steal second, gets thrown
Oh
out.
yeah.
And you
Was
see
it was it like the 30-second fastball he threw?
Yeah. You see that spike up?
That's
That's
crazy.
mid-inning.
That's
That's literally
crazy.
because he got the break he needed and was able to throw from the windup again
Was he?
and recalibrated himself.
But was he also? He had runners on. He had traffic. Was it?
He had
was it
a
like
man on
adrenaline
first
too?
at that point. It was like a jam. It was an annoying inning. He threw this horrible set of fastballs to first to Bassitt that was like 94 up and away. That's like, whoa, you can hit this, Bassitt. And the first thing he was serving him 97 up and in, Strider was. And then he throws that. Bassitt hits an easy double left center field, like a liner that goes to the wall. And then Guerrero gets an easy fastball 95 out and over the plate, and he hits it up the middle for base hit, scores a run. It's 1-0. You can see that his fastball's down. He's not looking good. Okay. Then Guerrero, he gets like an out. I can't remember how, but it was like, oh, all right.
Santander fly
he tries to
out.
steal second. And he just brings him back into the game. It's incredible. It's insane to me.
And so in the Santander, against Santander, he throws 83 mile an hour slider, 85 mile an hour changeup for a ball, 93 mile an hour four seam.
Up and away, misses it. I don't know how.
And 83 mile an hour slider.
And keep in mind, that slider is supposed to be like 86. It was in this game mostly 85 until then it started dropping as well. With
93 on the fastball is bad. And then in the next at bat to Andres Gimenez, 94.6, 95.8, 95.4.
Yeah, because 95.8 was it was an 0-1 pitch that he stole on, I think it was. And after that first pitch, essentially steals, redo it.
Yeah, but just generally, the velo was slightly disappointing. I mean, he's not. I don't think he's necessarily vintage Strider. He was sitting 95 today, and the slider was more, like you said, 83, 84 as opposed to 85 plus.
And not throwing strikes with it. I mean, eventually landed around a 50% strike rate, but that was underneath that for a good amount, and it was not like a 65% strike rate pitch. That's what makes Strider so good. It's why Hunter Greene is as good as he is right now, because that slider has become absurdly reliable for Hunter Greene. 71% strike rate as opposed to 60% in previous years. That's the difference. Really, I mean, you can point to also you have an extra 2 ticks of velocity, fine for Hunter Greene, but he can't take this leap without throwing strikes with a slider. And you need to have Strider throwing that slider at any point. If you're not doing that, and also you're throwing under a tick or two, because it was 96 and then 95 in his last 2 minor league games. And then this was 95 again. It's a little concerning.
So what's the comp here? It's like Dylan Cease or something. It's fastball slider with inconsistent command.
Oh man, yeah. The fastball's weird for Strider because it is 7 feet of extension, it is good vert, and it is a good attack angle. So you have like all the things still here at 95 as opposed to 97. 97 is why that like Jack Leiter's fastball essentially.
Yeah.
But it's worse than that. I don't know. Yeah, it's a strange comp at the moment. I don't have a good answer. I think Cease is a great one. You don't really see too many fastball slider guys anymore. You used to be still like a big wave of them. They kind of gone away. Jared Jones.
Yeah, Jared Jones.
Because he was always a
Strider. I think all these guys we want, a better third or fourth pitch for them.
Mm-hmm. So
maybe you should focus on the curveball if the changeup is so inconsistent.
I don't know. I'd say just throw sliders for strikes, and I think he'll be totally fine if that velocity isn't coming back. But the changeup, as you mentioned, good stuff. It's just you just gotta trust him more. I imagine on the first day back, you're not going to as much, and that's fine.
Right.
Maybe you can get a foundation now from this and establish it. Where would you put Strider now on your ranks? If you're like, okay, from next start and the rest of the season, do I see Strider as a top 10 pitcher, top 20? 30?
Yeah, that's why I was throwing Cease out there, because I had Cease in the top 10, and he hasn't been pitching that well, but all the underlying stuff and Ks and BBs are still there. So I guess I'll have Strider ahead of Cease, but I'll have both in the top 15. I mean, I think it's also interesting to think about, like, where does Jacob deGrom fit into this? Because I really did not expect I expected a lot of different things from Jacob deGrom. I did not expect him to come back and be okay.
Yeah, right.
Like I
be
don't
like pretty good.
understand that.
Like no. You took the best pitcher on the planet. Like what is this?
Yeah. So
Yeah, it is
some of
strange.
it's velo, but you can look at his stuff. It's down across the board, and
All right.
I think
Hold on a
I
second.
think deGrom is going to be. So I think deGrom, Cease, and Strider all belong in my top 15 still.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't yet gone through and gotten rid of injuries and stuff. But would I how would I put? I think I put Glasnow behind those three. Okay, Max Fried, or Dylan Cease or
I have Fried
Spencer
high,
Strider.
so I have him at I'm going to say Max Fried over Cease and Strider.
Yeah, because I had Max Fried 14, and he's made a lot of changes to his arsenal. Lance Brzezowski has a great piece on that.
Nice.
He seems to be healthy. So I think Fried kind of maybe takes Dylan Cease's 9 or 10 spot, for me.
Yep.
Gets into the top 10. And then, the other guys that I would have that could go in that 10 to 15 slot, I guess Hunter Brown is going to be in there.
No. That's what. There's my example. I'll just go to my grave not quite understanding Hunter Brown, and that's fine. I just won't, and we'll fine. But okay, wait. So I understand you're kind of in that top 20 range for Strider. There's a lot of those guys, and it's always
I think 10 to 15. I think 10 to 15.
Cool. I think we're on the same page with that. I have a couple quick tangents. One, Jacob deGrom is still 4th in the majors at swing strike rate at 18%.
Yeah, it's not as bad as people are saying.
96, 97 on the fastball. His strike minus ICR rate, which I treat as a very good efficient stat, is 12th in the majors. So PLV still has him at 20th, and we're thinking he should be better. Jacob deGrom, absolute buy low across the board. He is not a 21% strikeout rate, guys. We know this. To see a 18% swing strike rate that nearly matches your strikeout rate, no, we don't. That does not fly. Now, with Dylan Cease,
the same stuff plus as Shane Baz and Dylan Cease.
Oh, Shane Baz looks so good right now.
And he's just a tick behind Cole Reagans and Paul Skeens in terms of stuff plus.
Who's the first name you said there? Tick behind who?
Cole Reagans.
Yeah. Okay, sorry.
Who is one of many pitchers whose Reagans and Skeens have both lowered their arm angles a little bit, and I think it's a trend across baseball.
Yeah. So I do want to actually have a quick note on Dylan Cease that a friend of mine sent me this morning and made me aware of that I think is incredibly interesting. Also, there are some other pitchers that we have to talk about that I noticed, and I really want to hear your takes on. We'll talk about all of that after this break. So you mentioned Dylan Cease inside this thing, and by the way, there's
Hunter Brown has the same stuff plus as Garrett Crochet. Sorry,
who does? Hunter Brown?
Yeah.
Okay. So
yeah.
I mean, that's fine. What's his pitching plus relative to Crochet?
Better
than Crochet?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
What about the dog in him? Okay, but
yeah, sorry, it was off target.
I do want to talk.
I wanted to needle you a little bit. I don't understand why you don't like Hunter Brown.
Because I don't see in his whole arsenal what is his best pitch? Is it four seamer? Because it doesn't utilize it like a hero four seamer. What's his best breaking ball?
Knuckle curve.
What? Knuckle curve?
It's knuckle curve. Yeah.
All right. Okay, guys. I want to talk about a different Hunter, because Hunter Greene, a better color, is better than Brown. You can make a case that Hunter Greene is better than all of those other fastball slider guys. Better than deGrom, better than Cease, better than Strider with the way that he's throwing right now. It's just it's a dream season for him. He's looked like this since the spring.
And one thing I was thinking about too, I was sat on Hunter Greene versus Logan Webb. I'm not saying we were wrong, but we were talking about what's the use of a splitter when he needs a pitch he can throw for strikes. I think the splitter thing sort of made sense for me when I was watching him, because it isn't a pitch he's going to throw for strikes, but he's not going to be good if you just by adding a new pitch and then magically throwing for strikes. He's going to be good because he throws his current pitches for strikes. You know what I mean?
Well,
Like,
right. Well,
there
that's
isn't
right.
like another pitch he could throw that'd be like, oh, this pitch that you just started throwing, you're going to be really great at throwing for strikes. I like, maybe that's why that we were thinking that might happen. But for him, when he was so dominant, it was fastball slider. And as soon as you think you know if the fastball or slider is coming, that's when the splitter. So splitter was the third time through the order pitch where he was like, now you think it's slider? You're sitting slider? Oh, I could throw something that looks slider, but actually has like 5 inches more drop.
Okay, so I just quickly on that with Hunter Greene, this year that splitter, I'll put it this way: when you think about a splitter, do you think it's going to have a high or low put away rate? That is, when he's throwing 2 strike counts, is he going to get strikeouts or not? Right? Would you think that'd be high or low for the splitter?
Yeah, it should be high.
Right.
It should be a
Do you think
pitch.
this is a pitch that he'll be throwing early in counts? That is in 0-0, 0-1, or 1-0, behind when he's not a favorable count, or at 2 strikes? Ahead, right? In 2 strikes? Okay. So this year, Hunter Greene is throwing his splitter 77% of the time early and doesn't have a single strikeout on it. So 0% put away rate. Right?
Oh, wow.
So that to me is I get it though. I see what you're saying. You've said before.
He definitely got different. It was different look for the third time of the order. It definitely came out.
So that I wish that's one of the things that I've actually requested of like, hey, cool, I want to know like when in starts, like the first third of your pitches, middle, and then last or so, just something like that. But I had this really weird idea of like having a cell throughout all. You have like 100 cells of 100 pitches that you throw in a line, and they just have a different color for each cell, so you can quickly visualize pitch type changes just by in a straight line of like your start. And what I realized is that it can be really hard to discern. It's like, oh, is that more orange or not over here, over there? I was like, ah, dang it. I still feel like there's potential there. Anyway, the thing about Hunter Greene, you're absolutely right about, yes, adding that third pitch. You generally just get better performance if you have something else the batters are thinking about, even if it's bad. Adding a mediocre third pitch is generally a good thing. I still constantly think about that, and I think you're right about the splitter just getting a little bit more out of that fastball and slider because that's in their mind. 100%. But yeah, I mean, the nail on the head was like, cool, Hunter Greene needs to throw more strikes. Oh, the splitter's going to fix it. My whole pushback was like, well, no, that's not going to be the solution. You just throw more strikes. I don't know what that is. Oh, maybe just throwing more strikes with the fastball and slider in general is it. And that's really the big thing with him. And yeah, throwing also 1 to 2 ticks harder on both the slider and the four seamer doesn't hurt as well. Maintaining the vert on the four seamer that he gained last year, if not pushing it higher too, is also really good. So that's what's making Hunter Greene to me this guy. And he's doing what DeGrom and Cease and Strider want to be doing, throwing 2 really good pitches, fastball slider, hard, and for strikes. And that to me is awesome. So good to see. He's been such a good rhythm. I'm very tempted to put him like top 10 at this point, Hunter Greene, because it's possible it just falls out, but like he's doing it and he hasn't stopped really since the spring. While Hunter Brown, you said that the curveball is his best pitch. Is that right?
That's what Stuff Plus says.
4.85 PLV. Okay, that is
the cutter, which is actually a slutter. How about the cutter? It's a slutter.
The cutter's thrown 6% of the time this year.
Yeah, why is that? That's weird for me. He's using a lot of fastballs.
Right. So
but Stuff Plus loves his fastballs. Actually, what Stuff Plus says is his four seam is his out pitch.
Okay, right. So that's what I thought based on like the based on kind of the results as I'm watching how he gets his outs, or I like to say he's earned his oats, but outs is right there. It's kind of interesting of like, yeah, it's a 37% 2-strike rate, right? It's 85th percentile for four seamers. And it's only a 19% put away rate though. It's not this exceptional. I'm a little surprised that it's such a high stuff pitch because I don't really know what getting it from. It's not a great attack angle. It's a 6.7 extension, which is slightly above average. It is 16 to 17 vert, but it's also elevated a little bit because it's in Dakin. Now 97. If you can just sit 97 to 98, I'm like, fine. Hunter Brown's good. I get it. I'm not going to say he's bad if he's throwing 97, 98. Last year that was 96. So I guess what I'm getting at with Hunter Brown is that the secondaries to me aren't enough. It's a 50% strike rate on the curveball thus far this year, which is not very good. Actually, only one of his. Sorry, no, never mind. I take that back. I was about to say something stupid, and I saved it. But the sinker is what's really performing well.
He could get. I feel like while he's throwing at 98, this is his approach, and by shape, the knuckle curve and cutter are still really good pitches that maybe he will go to more as he ages, and drops velo off of the four seam.
Okay.
So I actually just really like him. Like, I think that yes, there may be some problems in the command right now for the knuckle curve. I certainly see a lot of waste pitches, but that is something that you get more reps on your knuckle curve and your cutter over time, just because you don't throw those that many times in bullpens. So you get more reps during games, and over time, I think I don't think he has a poor feel for spin if he has two good breaking balls by shape,
Yeah.
And so, and he throws 3 breaking balls overall. So I think that those breaking balls will get better as his fastball gets worse, and he'll generally be a very good pitcher for a long time.
All right, there you go. I mean, I think I'm in agreement with you that like he should be a solid arm. Just not this like top 10, top 15 kind of thing. I guess that's just I'm trying to get the point of like, okay, when things get rough, Hunter Brown is going to just dominate with this thing. And I want to say it's the four seamer. Actually, the pitch that's really helped him the most is the sinker thus far. You can even say it's like a near 80% strike rate, while the four seamer is like a 60 plus or 60% and just like right around there.
I mean, I think he's just having so much success playing the fastballs off each other. And I think naturally over the course of the season, you'll throw more secondaries. I mean, I've even talked to
agree with that. Absolutely.
Like I'm saving the curve for the third time through the league,
Yeah, totally. There's also to be said that the last 3 starts that he's had, and he at this first one of the year was fine against the Mets in Houston, but he's been at Minnesota, at Seattle, otherwise called as the T.
Oh, he's been set up. He's been set up for success.
So a little bit there, and even those last 2 at Seattle and at St. Louis has only been 7 strikeouts in 12 innings, for what it's worth.
That might happen though if you're using a lot of fastballs.
Yeah, very much so. So like, again, I'm not saying I dislike Hunter Brown. I just, there are a lot of times I just get so excited. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so filthy. This guy just goes there and just, as I like to use your phrase, the destroyer of worlds.
Yeah.
Like I see Shane Baz right now. I'm just like, dude, that four seamer is so good. The curveball underneath, he even added a cutter now, and that looks really cool to lefties. And like, oh my gosh, and the slider is just really bad. But he acknowledges that and changes it. Like, oh, that's just so fun to watch and overwhelm. And I feel as if that suggests more of just utter domination, while Brown is like oh, come on, I had the comp in my head just a second ago, and now it's gone. It's like you're Justin Steele. And it's like, oh, okay, fine. Yeah, this is going to be great, but just okay. That kind of thing, I guess, which I hate saying out loud. I'm really sorry, guys. All of those tangents aside, I had actually an interesting thing about Dylan Cease. Dylan Cease, I've always thought of, and he has in previous years, been really good against righties, and the biggest problem has been lefties. He has a slider that obviously destroys righties, a four-seamer that he generally spots better against righties and left-handers. And with lefties, it's actually a little bit worse command. He's a little bit more careful with both the four-seamer and slider, but what that means is that you have sliders out of the zone at times too much, and then you also have four-seamers that fall down and it turns into what I call donut command, which is down the middle or completely like right outside the zone, right? And making a lovely donut of negative space. However, this year, Dylan Cease is doing much better against lefties than righties, especially in the last 2 games in particular. And I just thought that was a fun thing about Dylan Cease that should probably be different. I think it's just a weird noise thing going on that he has reverse splits, because let's be honest, the reason that Dylan Cease has added this changeup and tried to figure all these things out is not because he needed more help against righties, which I don't understand why the sweeper exists, but fine. It's because lefties were always this thing. It's why I keep banging my hand on the table asking for this cutter as kind of almost tongue in cheek at this point. But it is just an interesting thing. Thank you so much, Alex Fast, for sending me that way. Send that my way. He said, why are you saying this about Cease? He's much better against lefties than righties. Because it's not going to sustain itself fast. It's weird.
Well, there's another thing is that, the kind of slider that he throws, Dylan Cease throws, is like, it can actually have reverse platoon splits.
I mean, it's like the Jake Arrieta power slider at times, right?
Yeah.
He can throw it down and in and just destroy them. And completely, it's a really hard one to be consistent with. So I've seen starts absolutely from Cease where it's just, it's like, oh, I don't have this one today. And then the four seamer has to do all of the work. And
I mean,
it can be really tough.
It's a slutter basically, because it's not a 0-0
slider.
slider.
You say power slider,
Power slider. And when you don't have, it doesn't have horizontal break like at all, and when you don't have horizontal break, that against righties is not always ideal,
right? It's not as good because it's not going away from the bat anymore.
Exactly. So I'm not too surprised that he's had success against lefties. Yet I think that for us, maybe both, the changeup or the sweeper, or the curve or the cutter, there's two kind of failings to Dylan Cease, which are he's so two pitch dominant that he's not throwing different shapes out there, and to some extent he's trying to change that this year with more changeups, sweepers, curveballs, sinkers. He's just chipping away so that it's not all forcing fastball sliders. So to some extent he's doing that. And then the other thing we want is a third pitch that he can command. And I don't think he's found that yet. The changeup is hilarious. Last year, you could see it coming from a mile away. His whole body was moving, slower. Slowed his arm. It was all ridiculous. It was super telegraphed, terrible pitch. This year he's throwing it like almost 10 miles an hour harder. And the arm speed is there, and it definitely has better movement profile and is theoretically a strong pitch, but it's a straight change. It's got 20 mile an hour gap between his changeup and his four seam.
Oh man.
So it's a strange pitch because that's a pitch that Marco Estrada and guys with touch throw, it's like, that's a touch pitch, Giolito took him a while to figure out how to throw the straight change high in the zone. Like, you have to throw that high in the zone. I think Dylan Cease is trying to do the baby Giolito because he's got a straight change he throws high in the zone. He can't get on top of it. He can't get it down in the zone. It's a very strange pitch. And if he figures that out, it's theoretically pretty strong, right? Because there's a pitch high in the zone. It is that. It's the pitchfork.
Oh, I know. It's so I gave it to you inside private chat. There's a link to Rob Friedman pitching ninja.
Yeah, doing all
of them.
Grips, yeah.
And the weirdest one to me is the slider. I don't quite in my head wrap around how he's doing that. I think I got it, but that he's essentially using the right side. So not the outside of his.
Yeah, usually you throw a slider along seams, and he's like across.
He's going on the right side of the seam, on the inside of that right seam. It looks like at where the knuckle is on the index finger, with the middle finger over it, but it's like so tilted. It really is so strange to me. Like, it's like this, Yeah. And I'm holding this in my hand, and I'm like, how do you do this? Or sometimes it's just like, this is really it, isn't it? Oh, he's really on the side of it too, like with the.
It's like this.
It's like that.
So, yeah, that's it.
It's
like, what I don't understand is that's his slider grip, and then the other one, and he has no fingers long as seam in either.
Yeah.
So for this one, I feel like maybe this is a way to kill spin because you have no fingers.
Completely. You're almost splitting it. Yeah. You said the fork with it. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
You're just throwing over the top. You can stay on top of this easy because you have.
But a slider is about spin, and he must be spinning it somewhere. One of those fingers is on the seam, and
that's what I think. I think the index finger, the left part of it, is pulling down on the top of that horseshoe.
It's just not.
It's also really funny to me. If you remove the knuckle curve and sweeper ball, it's the same pitch. Like, it's literally it's a knuckle curve. It's the same pitch. And what's so funny is, like, yeah, sure, okay, with the knuckle curve, you want to go this way on the seam, and the other one's on this part of the seam, but you're releasing it in the same way. It's just you're releasing one this way, or sorry, you're releasing it differently. That's the only difference. You're still going in you're also against the seam.
Yeah, the seams are different. Yeah, you got to have the seams different.
Like, one's turned this way, one's going over the top with it, but like, It's the same. You can do the curveball grip, but as a sweeper, it's the same thing. You just turn the ball.
Yeah.
It's just about finding whatever's comfortable with your hand as you release it. And
I
I
mean, the
get it, but
sweeper
it's
is like
also
basically a
fun.
sideways curveball.
Right. Rich Hill's curveball was always a sweeper. I've been saying it for ages. Okay, and then the sinker is a one seamer, which is actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's the other thing I saw with that was like, oh, all right. The four seamer also has that slight cut to it. You can kind of see that, and then this was just so fascinating to me, like how everyone has their feels for all of this. And I'm like, this is how did you get here? How did you like with everything else that we know? How did you settle on this, Dylan Cease? I don't know. But yeah, the four seamer is very interesting because it's
I
not.
definitely feel that about the changeup. Every time he throws a changeup, I'm like, what was the like? How did what? Why are we here? What is this?
Well, you saw Dan. You wrote about Dan Straley's journey, right? I still think about that.
Right. Yeah,
Like the 17 grips he had.
that's
Or
how I
whatever.
feel about Cease's changeup. He's probably
Right?
on grip 17 for sure.
Yeah. Oh man. What's so interesting about that four seamer with Cease is it doesn't look straight. It looks slightly like and it doesn't surprise me because I've said often that he has the plane of 1,000 cuts on that four seamer. Which if you have that, you generally are going to be more effective, I think, against opposite handed. I mean, it just makes more sense. If you have more cut, you'll be more effective against lefties. If you have more ride inside, the run, then you generally will be more effective against righties. That's just generally how I think about it, but I could be wrong. It's just more about vert, but he does slightly do, this is what I normally would say for cutters, is that you just take your four seamer grip and then you just tilt the ball slightly off plane. That's really it. Or you just slide over your fingers a little bit more. So you're
I've been
kind of
trying to
not
play with that with my son
middle.
because he got a little bit of a lower slot. And so I'm
Yeah.
like, if you got a little bit of a lower slot, you got to cut the four seam a little bit so it doesn't.
Oh, yeah. So what you're saying actually is, so if you're coming in a lower slot, you want to make sure you don't get off on the side of the ball like that, right?
Yeah.
Towards the right. So to offset it, you actually go back towards the middle. And then you're staying on top of it still, even though like if you have the ball normal, right?
You're actually
You
going
can do
towards
that.
the horseshoe.
Yeah. So it feels really strange because it's like 45% of the ball is on your left side and 55 of it's on the right. And that's kind of what it's not really, well, it's not really what Cease is doing. He's just taking, if it's a straight plane of the seams, I mean, you put your fingers on it, he's just putting your fingers down and then tilting it slightly along the axis so that he's kind of off of it. And that will sometimes get you that cut because of how the seams are acting on it. Well, then we're like, well, hold on a second. Let's go a little bit that way. Interesting stuff. Pitch griffs. They're wonderful. That's the craft. Okay. But that was such a fun tangent. I knew we would. I was beforehand. I was like, we're going to have tangents. Don't worry about this, That's all I got this. There are two pitchers who are doing interesting four-seamer things. And I need to hear what you think about it. The first one is going to be Will Warren. The second one, well, you're just going to have to hear who it is after this break. So did you notice, Saris, did you notice what is new about Will Warren's four-seamer?
The same thing that's new about, his probably his patron saint. Michael King also has added 2 or 3 inches of vertical break to their four-seam fastball.
Yeah, there's more. There's
more. I guess also arm side movement. So just more movement in general.
There's one
at a lower velo though. Sometimes using movement can be obscured by the fact that at a lower velo it has more time to move.
So first start was an 18% swing strike rate in Arizona. That was a weird one with his four-seamer. Second one was 10.5. The third one was 23% swing strike rate in Will Warren's four-seamer. And what is so fascinating to me is not just that he actually located this thing upstairs a lot, not just that he is getting that extra vert on that four-seamer. So now it's at 17 inches of vert, and we're not talking from that first start of the year, 15.4. But his height-adjusted VAA in that first one was 1.0. The second one was 1.1. And then the third one went up as high as 1.4. And all of a sudden, this is turning into
the best IVB of the year.
And also the IVB goes up, and it's flatter. And now it's at 93 and upstairs and located. What do you know? He has 7 whiffs on this four-seamer upstairs. And when I think about Will Warren, 7 over 31 whiffs here, I don't think of a guy that can actually get outs on your
With the
fastball,
four seam, yeah.
right? Or the four seam specifically, right? Exactly. Yeah, the sinker maybe.
Sinker in on righties, you could
Right.
probably get some
Yeah,
stuff, yeah.
absolutely. Take it back. But yeah, he's not supposed to have this as well. He's supposed to be the
117
bad side.
stuff plus on the four seam against the
118.
Giants. 117. That
Woo!
is,
Is this time?
mm,
I mean, if Will Warren has a four seam that can go upstairs and do well, that changes
that
a lot.
changes everything because he's a sinker sweeper guy to righties, and he just needs, because the four seam, playing like that will make the changeup better.
Oh yeah, completely. Great point.
And he doesn't, and also keeps him out from having to throw sinkers to lefties, which that's something that Clark Schmidt has fallen into, because Clark Schmidt has a cutter, but you don't want to just throw cutters and curves to four seamer to lefties.
Right.
And you don't want to be a 2-pitch guy to lefties.
Yeah, right.
You want to be a 3 or 4-pitch guy to lefties.
Yeah.
And so Warren with a crappy four seam, he had to be someone to be like, I'm gonna throw some two seams to you, even though I shouldn't. I'll throw some high two seams to you. I'll throw some four seams, and I'll just walk a lot of guys. I don't know if you watched Will Warren against lefties early in the season. The first two starts, it was like, what is he going to do against lefties? He's going to walk them.
That's what Ronel Blanco did actually a bit last year. He's just like, I'm just not going to deal with this.
Yeah. Just next one. And there are guys who've gotten away with just walking lefties to some extent, but it's not, I don't think, a recipe for long-term success. No. Brandon Pfaadt does this too, because maybe you're not doing it on purpose, but you're like dancing around. You're not using your best pitches, and you end up walking lefties.
This is the first time I've ever been in on Brandon Pfaadt, but I'm in. I mean, I think we talked about last time. He's still doing it, curve and change against lefties now. It's a thing.
That's what he's throwing to lefties.
He's throwing a lot of them. Yeah, he actually, I think 2 starts ago he threw more, because he faced more lefties than righties. He threw more curves and changeups than sweepers in general.
Okay, let me see here.
Which is just what? I think the changeup took a step back last time, but the curve was very present. If this is just me testing myself live on this podcast, that's a good idea.
Okay, so in the last start he dialed it back a little bit. But he still threw 37% of his 37% of his pitches were curveballs and changeups against lefties.
Yes, and only
before that 10%. It was crazier. It was like 52% in the first 2 starts.
Yeah, but I mean that's only because he added sinkers in this one to Baltimore. Like the sweeper is now not the thing that he throws against lefties, and I think that's really the important thing.
That's probably a good idea. And the sinker. That could be a 1-game blip, because that could just be. That's one thing I have learned from pitchers is like, Landon Rope was like, I'm going to have a cutter, and then he comes in spring training, he throws the cutter a ton, and he's like, I've got a cutter, and I'm like, hey, this is really great. You said you have a cutter, now you have a cutter, and then in the first game he threw 1 cutter.
Yeah, right.
And I asked him about that, and he's like, well, the only lefty that I was really worried about was Yordan Alvarez, and he loves cutters or something, So I was like, I threw him 1 cutter, and that was
right.
it.
That's like the only one in the Astros lineup too.
Yeah, so maybe with the Orioles, they just identified the fact that they're vulnerable to, like, maybe their lefties are vulnerable to sinkers, or maybe they had more righties in the lineup, or no. This is actually
71% strikes and only 1 hit allowed on that sinker in 14 thrown against lefties.
Is it any better?
That's a good question.
Has he just decided like these are okay pitches? Like, I don't know. The curve has a 99 stuff plus right now. The change has an 80.
That's fine. I'll put it this way. Pfaadt doesn't need to dominate lefties.
Right.
He dominates righties. So he just needs to survive. And this has always been the problem, is that you see this volatility at times from Pfaadt, because you get a left-handed heavy lineup, and then he's going to allow home runs off of that, or it's just not going to be good. But if you can stabilize and just like give yourself a good chance here, we've solved it.
We'll see. We'll see. He's lowered the OBP against lefties this year, so he is walking them less. They used to have a 340 OBP against him, but they still have a 533 slugging against him. He has a 496 career slugging against lefties. So I don't know if it's been figured out, but that could be something. But with Warren, I mean, I think there's a real chance that this is his breakout, and this is what we've been waiting for.
I hope so.
The one dampener is that it used to come with better velo. So as much as he's figured out his arsenal, and it's a nice wide arsenal, he can be 3+ pitches to lefties and righties. He's sitting 92.8.
Yeah.
So it's not, I don't think it's going to be dominance. I think it's more like a guy who jumps into the back end of the top 50.
Yeah, that's great with me. It's also a good situation in New York. They need innings. We know that. And they certainly have a good win chance. I mean, just remember, this is a guy who didn't get a win last year at all when he came up in those 6 games, 5 starts, was not good, was really disappointing, even with good matchups against like the White Sox, for example, just couldn't execute it. And now to see, oh, hey, hold on a second. Here's your first win in doing something that actually feels like you could be a streamer at the very worst and a hold in a 12-teamer. That is very exciting, and it's going to be the thing I'm going to be focused on next time. Sometimes it's like Tyler McGill, where you see 3 good starts of it, and then all of a sudden the 4-seamer and slider command are gone for a start. And now you're just like, uh-oh, I hope it comes back, I'm just going to say this is the Tyler McGill podcast, just so you guys know.
Yeah.
And every single week, we're going to report to see where we are on him.
Well, I'm fascinated by the tease that you gave me ahead of time, which is Luis L. Ortiz is doing something different. I had not noticed that. Is it the increased cutter usage?
Nope. What I highly recommend is if you're not on the Pitcher List player page, which I think you would be for this, because this is like the best way to quickly look at trends for what guys are doing in the game log, is you just go to 4-seamer, and then you'll see, okay, cool. Wow, he had 67% strikeout rate on the 4-seamer in his last start. How did that happen? You go to locations, and you realize, 60% high lock,
Wow.
And what does he have? What does he do? He is so flat. 1.6 height adjusted VAA at 95.96. You're made for high location 4-seamers, Luis L. Ortiz. And the thing is, before this,
he's a really low arm angle that gets surprising ride, and maybe by throwing it high in the zone, he's getting more ride because he's actually getting a little more ride.
Well, you definitely do see that, right? The higher it goes, I think you see it. Like I remember seeing like some ridiculous like 25 IVB, and I realized it was like the pitch that was, hitting the camera.
Yeah,
something like that.
You could look at. He does not throw the 4-seam low. There's very, very few of them.
Well, in that one start, it was only a 14% low lock, but the previous 2 games, 26% and 36% and 32% high location. Luis L. Ortiz has not been known as a high location 4-seamer guy, and he should have been. And I haven't had any sort of faith that he will have the command or I don't know, wherewithal, whatever, at this point to make this massive change. But he did in one start, and he had 10 strikeouts against the Royals, with 6 of them off that high 4-seamer because of it. So all of a sudden, I'm like, well, that's the thing you're supposed to do, and you did it. So hopefully you can keep doing it. And that means like a top 20? No, probably not. But look, throwing 95-96 with a slightly below Joe Ryan flat attack angle, that works, guys. That's kind of enough for me just to say like this should be an effective 4-seamer at the very least. You don't need to have amazing vert to make that work.
I'm going to take Warren over him.
I agree with you. Yeah.
Just some of it is just some unease about Luis L. Ortiz's true talent command. I'm not sure
this is 100% how I feel about both. Of like, this is the thing, at least. Let's be aware of that and just track to see if it's continuing. I'd take a chance on it.
We could give Luis L. Ortiz's velo to Will Warren and Will Warren's command to Luis L. Ortiz,
Oh,
man. Have 2 really amazing pitchers, but
Joey Estes and Joe Boyle combined, I'm just saying. Like that would be
that'd be funny looking dude too.
But one day he's Joe, one day he's Joey, Oh god.
But I also find Luis L. Ortiz fascinating because I think that might be an archetype here, which is I was talking about the Bido Luis L. Ortiz connection, where there's increasingly, I think, I'm not sure that it's fully a trend until you have 5 or 6 people that are doing it, but I can identify more pitchers now that are like fastball, like just all fastballs and a slider. Like 2 or 3 fastballs and a slider.
Yeah. Luis Severino.
Yes, that's a good one. Yeah. So there's I feel like that works. You have, because if you think about it, you have your like out pitch,
Yeah.
and if it's like a gyro slider, then it can be an out pitch maybe against either. And then with the fastballs, you're just always pairing the different fastballs. I think it's a little exhausting, and I'd rather like, I think to some extent my ideal pitcher is something like a Verlander, where it's like, it's got a good four seam, it's got a good slider, it's got a good curveball, it's got a good changeup. You know, it's like check,
Yeah.
check, check, check.
Absolutely. You want to know the
But
worst version of that? The one that's like maybe explains a little bit. I mean, he does have really good extension, but he throws like 89. It's Ben Lively.
is he a bunch of fastballs and a slider?
Fastball, four seamer, and sinker. This is what's so wild about him, is that he tunnels them, and the sinker's not necessarily in a good spot, but because it just looks like the four seamer, he gets all these weird outs on it, and then he throws sliders. And everyone's been like, well, okay, he's going to be so unlucky. He's not going to work. Like, yeah, he's not going to be amazing, but he's going to have all these random productive starts. And you're just like, what? Ben Lively? Like, that's how he does that.
Yeah.
It is a very interesting archetype. I think even like Jake Irvin is kind of like that with a curveball instead of a slider.
Yeah.
Had a great start, even though he was 2 ticks down yesterday against the Pirates. That was on Tuesday night, Jake Irvin. But yeah, there is something to that. I'm going to do one more tangent, and then I think we gotta wrap this one up. If you have something else to add there, as well. But you know who like is the weirdest sleeper? You know, we say this all the time, but only if they add more velocity. But I really actually think there's something there with Mitchell Parker.
I'm just like saying. Mitchell Parker.
He's so interesting to me. He is near 7 feet of extension, actually, like 92 and change. He has a lot of IVBs, over the top a bit, but he has 4 pitches. And there are these games I watch of him where it's like, yeah, that four seamer is like gets on guys. The slider is very effective against lefties. He's really leaning into it. And it's a changeup curve four seamer against righties, really splitter actually, which okay, fine. But hopefully, like, I can just see how this slowly out of nothing becomes a quiet, like 3.5 ERA guy for a year, especially if the command gets more focused, or like maybe there's one extra tick of velocity in there to really amp those up a little bit more. But I mean, it's likely not going to happen. I just sometimes see these guys. I'm like, oh, but you're closer than it seems. And I don't know. I'll just hold on to that one for myself.
No, I like it. I think I'm coalescing. Like, we should do this for another episode, but we did this once on the craft, which was I believe it was on the crafts. Or on Raids and Barrels. We did a thing where we drafted traits.
Oh,
that's awesome. The choice was like like out pitch. You know, ours was a little bit different. I think but I think we had feel for spin. Command, out pitch, multiple fastballs, things like that, you know.
Wow.
And I just like that because it shows your values, you know. And I think the thing that's missing from Parker, I'm trying to soften on being just a straight stuff. It's not, I can tell you right now, like, oh, Mitchell Parker, no pitches above average by stuff plus.
Right.
I'm trying to refine that a little bit because there's a wide band of success rates for guys between 95 and 105 stuff plus. You know, like, there are just guys in that band where it doesn't matter that they have one guy has a 101, the other guy's a 99. You know what I mean? Right, like the 99 has 5 pitches in command, or he has an out pitch. Sure, you know what I mean? So what I do think I care about is an out pitch. I think I want the dominant. I think I want that one shining pitch. And then you can move everything around it. Because when I saw Atlanta Roop for the first time, and I thought he could be a starter, not because he was sinker slider out of the pen, right? And yes, the stuff plus was great. But I was like, that curveball alone is the foundation for an arsenal.
Yep. And that's what he reminds me of Aaron Nola now.
Yeah.
Because that curve looks like it.
He gets it's not as sweepy a curve as you'd expect from his arm slot.
Yeah, it was really, really good against the Phillies. If you didn't know, he actually set the record for Giants pitchers in the history of the San Francisco Giants. Landon Roop has the most whiffs on a curveball in a single game at 15, beating Blake Snell's 14. of the past.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is once a team that signed Barry Zito to a lot of money.
Oh yeah, that's actually a really good point. Maybe in the Stat Track or Pitch FX era or something like that.
But you
Uh,
look at
yeah.
LaRoop and you're just like, oh, is there that much of a difference between him having a 108 stuff less curveball and Parker not? And I'm like, maybe,
Mm-hmm.
because when LaRoop it gets to 2 strikes, he knows what he can do. And
Right.
you look at Sugano's page, and there's just nothing that's
Yeah. What are you
past
gonna
that
do? Yeah.
line.
Right.
What does Sugano do with 2 strikes? Well, he
I've
doesn't
called
get the
this the
strikeout.
hero pitch.
Yes, you need a
And I
hero
really should
pitch.
just call it the out pitch. That makes more sense. But it's kind of like
Yeah.
that. It's just like, all right, I'm in trouble. Not necessarily get them out, but like I need to get myself
Or
in
I
the
have 2
dugout.
strikes, and
Yeah, or I have
I
two
wanna
strikes.
get the
So the
strikeout.
thing is, like, you have an out pitch. That's cool. Like you have Glasnow's curve, but you have nothing that gets you there. That's not your hero pitch. Does that make sense? Because it's not. It's a
Mm.
great put away offering. That's why I kind of made it more. It needs to be an out pitch that also is a strike pitch.
Mhm.
And that's why I called the hero. So I think I'm with you that is the hero pitch is the thing. So like that's why I'm still kind of in on Gavin Williams, because like that fastball is that's just really good. Joe Ryan is just able to do this just with enough strikes with other things that are whatever. But the fastball is just that hero pitch, and who cares?
Yeah, I think my priorities are like sort of like out pitch, multiple pitches for strikes,
Mm.
which can be multiple fastballs, but multiple pitches for strikes. And then like maybe a secondary out pitch, not being my value system, because what ends up happening is there is a way for Spencer Strider to do all those things with 2 pitches, if you think
Well,
about it.
right. Oh yeah. So
He can have an out
funny.
pitch, he can
Yeah,
have the fastball and slider for strikes, and he can have a secondary out pitch, which is the other one. But you
that's
have
so
to be
funny.
really dominant to have all those 3 things with 2 pitches.
This is what I've always said. People have said like, you can't survive with 2 pitches. You have to get a third. I'm like, well, no, you need 3 things to be true. You need a fastball that you can, or like a cutter, whatever, a primary fastball that gets you strikes. You
Yeah.
need a secondary pitch that you can throw for strikes, and you need an out pitch. You need a pitch to get whiffs.
Yeah.
And
And
sometimes
you can
that's
satisfy that
both.
with 2 pitches. Yeah,
Right. That's what I've
but
always
if you're
said
Easton
about the 3
Lucas,
rules.
then you can't. You're kind of fastball slider, but your fastball slider, I'm sorry, they're not good enough to be
Yeah,
like
right.
all of these things.
Really, the fastball was the interesting one against the Red Sox, but the Red Sox are just really bad at high fastballs right now. Gosman, also in Easton Lucas and stuff, and that's kind of what's going on there, I think. But what I do want
Gosman
to
resurgence though, dude.
Gosman, well, it's so weird. He's not. In the last 2 games combined, he's had 7 splitter whiffs. That's
wow.
it.
He's doing it at the fastball now. He's pitching.
It's just
backwards?
all fastball. And it's like the first one was
strange.
92.7, and he had this amazing game against the Red Sox. And then the other one's okay, 94.6. That's better.
Yeah,
but,
the velo's back a little bit.
But like, is 94.6 enough to say like, oh, well, he's just going to be an amazing 4-seamer guy with like, okay, a 50% strike rate on the splitter, and that's enough? No, we always need to see something else. And it's not that slider or curve. Come on, guys, we know this. We know it.
Yeah, I don't know how in on it I am. Gosman, I think, will be an interesting rank in my next ranks.
I have him at like 60. And
wow.
I'm like, well, 12 teamer. So it's like, is he, there's like essentially like the top 40 is just like you are holding these the entire year.
Starter. Yeah, don't you think? For 12 teams.
Well, hold on. It's always relative,
Yeah.
Always relative. So like the top 40 has like Lugo at the end of it or so, right?
Uh-huh.
So like I like Lugo more than Gosman. I think we can both very much agree on that one.
No.
What?
No.
We don't? We don't like Seth Lugo more than Kevin Gosman?
You making that comparison makes me think that I should have Gosman lower than I have him.
I'm not even done. That's like a 40-45.
I could see them being close to each other in the 40s to 50s. All right.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I mean, so how I mentally do mine is you have in 12 teamers, it's like you have like the collection of guys that if they're on your team, there's zero expectation you're dropping them the entire year. It's just like you have them and that's it, done. You're not really thinking about this. Things need to go really poorly quickly for you to be like, well, hold on a second. This guy's completely new and different and all that. If he does this normal stuff, he's all right. Then you have after that what I'm starting to call like not the frizzles, I guess maybe, which are just like take chances, make mistakes, get messy. Of like it's more worthwhile for you to go and chase the new hot thing that could turn into that stable thing that's a top 40, like Spencer Schwellenbach was last year, for example, that kind of guy. Like Dustin May is in there right now. And I'm like, this is looking great. And you're just really happy of Dustin May at the moment. And then you have Gausman, and you have like Gausman at the end of it. It's like, well, yeah, this could be something really cool. And also, he destroyed a lot of teams last year, and he's not very different from that. Like, I could very much see in 3 starts from now, we're like, yeah, we do not want Gausman on our teams, right? Tanner Houck was already in like 86 or something on my list before the disaster one, because like he's just not someone you want to invest in for, for the 12-teamer side. You want to be going after those more interesting, like Grant Holmes, honestly, kind of types, of Chris Bubich, those things more so.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, Kevin Gausman, like a 2.5 pitch pitcher who Stuff Plus says he lost his splitter last year and hasn't gotten it back.
Yeah. That's right. Not fun.
I guess I was too focused in on the velo and just thought, hey, the velo's back. He's back.
He had like 2 games in September where he finally had splitter whiffs, but then it disappeared again. Another guy I do want to ask about quickly is Justin Verlander. Where are you on that? I'm actually in.
I think he's being unlucky. I don't know though, because the whiffs aren't there. And
well, they were 2 starts ago. The last one yesterday was weird, like a really weird one with like a really low strike rate on the 4-seamer. But he had 20 whiffs in the previous one.
And
were killing it.
I just watched a lot of it because it's the local TV for me, And
yeah,
it's it seems like he's not only also just doing what he used to do and banging his head against the wall and not understanding why it's not as good, because he's throwing a sweeper now. He never used to throw a sweeper, so he's trying to innovate. I think the fastball, he thinks the fastball is what it used to be, or at least close to what it used to be, because the velo is there, but the movement is not the same as it used to be.
Right.
And so, just the fastball's Stuff Plus is down to 70s right now. And he's still using it like it's a good pitch. So that's what I think he needs to move away from a little bit. But the Stuff Plus in the Philly game, 110 on the fastball. So maybe it's just taking some time to come back around. Whatever it is, like I remain frustrated because mostly when I watch him, I'm like, yeah, it's all there. Right. And then he has this inning where you're like, what is happening this inning? Why did you just let that guy have a hit and that guy like it's unraveling like a kid almost. Like he's like there's these weird innings where it's just like steamrolling and he can't seem to get back on top of it. So I would pick him up if he was there.
I'm in on Verlander. I think the 4-seamer slider is as good as we've seen for 2-3 years.
Yeah.
And,
I think the schedule is
the veterans. I like to give
the schedule better, right? Isn't the schedule turning for him a little bit too?
Oh yeah, he just faced the Phillies, which is no fun.
And I think the schedule gets better for him going forward.
Yeah. I think did he face the Yankees? I know Logan Webb and Ray did. Might have missed that one.
Yeah. But what do we have
there? I think it's I think the Verlander, the whole Giants crew is going to get a better opportunity as well. They have a really good fun rotation right now. Verlander and Webb and Roop.
He has Ray. At Angels, home against Texas. I think that's
for both.
Pretty good starts. Yeah, exactly.
Taken for both. I think that's good. I think that, I know we want to talk about Priester. I'm completely out. Sinkers are just in the zone. I don't know how it worked, and that's great. It's at 93, and the secondaries aren't looking good. I'm out in Priester.
Well, he cut his sinker, so it doesn't have as much fade, so it has surprising movement. And he did a lot of things to change the movement profile, and he did push his Stuff Plus up to 99. So like they were good changes. They weren't maybe enough. And it's interesting to see the movement spread between his pitches is very small. It's like it's not one of these things. It's not like a Max Fried.
Yeah, right. Yeah, not a Landon Roop.
Yeah, it's like a little ball. And I just wonder if that's the case, then maybe these movements profiles are too close to each other where it's not stretching your mind, stretching your eyes. Right. You're kind of like, I can zero in on this little area and the movement's not going to be too weird. It probably is bad for whiffs.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he had 7 whiffs and 84 pitches, Quinn Priester, on Tuesday, yesterday on the 15th of April. He could not land his slider down away to righties well. The strike rate on the sinker was 81%, while everything else averaged, I want to say, like 50%. 55%.
Stuff Plus
combined.
loves that new sinker, so that's one
That's
reason
so
he caught
interesting.
my eye.
Yeah. What do we have for it? PLV says it was great. 530 is really good for a sinker.
Yeah.
Now does include the location, and against right-handers, I believe he did go inside and jam them, which again, you want to see that for Priester. No, actually, no, he put those over the plate and then was away the lefties. Get out of here. That's so funny. That's
The
he just left
Stuff
them over
Plus
the
model
plate.
just loves the fact that, he throws from a certain slot and
Yeah,
they expect a sinker with fade, and he actually cuts his sinker.
that's so interesting.
So it gets less fade than they expect.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's only 16 inches of run as opposed to like 18 is what you're hinting at, which is pretty cool. He does get legitimate sink though. 6 inches of vert is nice.
Could be a one seamer or something.
Yeah. Height adjusted VAA. Anytime I see that on a sinker being negative, that's what you want. That's the angle you want coming in.
Mm-hmm.
But all right, for real this time. So nice of you. So nice of you to come on. It's so special every single time. Saris, please tell us what you're up to.
I've got a piece coming up tomorrow. Is hitting development catching up to pitching development?
Right.
And it goes into a lot of the little the weird things that hitters are doing today to develop their style. But basically, the underlying premise is, the thesis is that the new hitting stats, the new metrics that we've gotten only since we started Hawkeye in 2020, are allowing hitters to refine their craft in a way that they haven't been able to do before. One way that's obvious is the torpedo bat. You're moving the sweet spot around. Why can you move the sweet spot around? Because now you know exactly where the hitter actually makes contact on the bat, because that's something that you can actually track.
Right.
And I've noticed that a bunch of hitters are opening up this year in their stance. That could be another thing where it's like they're studying the angle of the hitter's legs and all the stuff that's coming through to Hawkeye, and they're developing these things better.
That's so cool.
I
definitely read that one. And
check. And I'm going to do a reel or not, I think, for Friday. I'm going to do reel or not for pitchers.
Beautiful.
So that's what's coming up next.
Patience or panic. No, wait. Is it legit? Is the one that we do for real or not? Right. Okay.
There you go.
Now, last question we have here, guys. How's Bobby Miller going to do tonight?
4 walks and 4 strikeouts and 4 earned. In 4 innings.
He's a Star Wars guy.
The quadruple 4.
The 4s be with him. All right. I don't know. I just think it's like, all right, just let's hope for the best. I'm kind of hoping that he was so bad in the minors, but hey, he's in LA now. It's the Dodgers, the whole thing. Like, it's gonna get him going.
He was just bored down there.
He's gonna be like, no, you know what? I'm back. I'm gonna do this.
All right.
Got this, Bobby 100. Please don't be Bobby unfurled. All right, that is gonna do it for this episode of The Craft. On behalf of Saris, my name is Nick Pollock, and we'll talk again about the craft of pitching next week.